See these maps?
Yes, sir.
Okay, they weren't prepared by me. They were prepared by supporters of another bill that we're going to oppose. These shaded areas represents where WIC participation is high. So in other words, the residents in that particular county and Allegheny receive WIC. Now you don't receive WIC if you're a professional making $80,000 or $90,000 a year. That tells me you either got a low-income job, no job at all, or you're on Medicaid. Okay? So yeah, when I sit there and say that Garrett County is economically depressed, I think these maps show that.
What you guys are proposing is that we wholesale start a new business venture with no plan.
So we had Governor Cuomo passing a ban on fracking in the state of New York just weeks before session started in Maryland. And it really just got all our team in order. You know, it really put us in this really strong mentality that we can really do something big in Maryland in 2015.
We ask that you would empower us with wisdom, that our thoughts, that our words, that our actions would be pleasing unto you, that we would continue to grow as a body.
As I learned more about fracking and read what happened in New York and read what happened in other states, and then we found that we have a kind of shale, Marcellus Shale in Maryland, that is open to the idea of freeing up the natural gas if you pour lots and lots of chemicals in it. I found there is no way to avoid contaminating local air and local water. So I put in a bill asking for a 10-year moratorium so we could study it.
The front runner, the bill that had the most advocates working on it, that had a coalition behind it, was the 8-year moratorium on fracking.
What we want to do is put a moratorium on fracking for 8 years until we can study the issue and make a knowledgeable decision about this. Now, New York had the same issue, and they studied it as well, but they studied it from a public health perspective. They did the responsible thing. They looked at it as protecting New Yorkers. They looked at it as protecting kids in New York. We haven't done that.
If this body does not want to frack, then let's call a duck a duck. If you don't want to frack in Maryland, why don't we put a bill up that says no fracking in Maryland? Do not continue this charade that we're going to study it until we get the answer that we want. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The most important thing that we're learning from this is that there needs to be more transparency in our business in Garrett County so that we can have a voice here, because the people who have been sharing information have not been sharing it accurately. And there are many people who we've talked to in the last couple of weeks since this has come onto our radar that have said that they will pick up and leave the second one of the wells goes in.
So, I mean, I understand the issues associated with fracking, but there's nobody fracking in Maryland. Do I believe there's some issue with fracking? Yes, I do. Is it safe? I don't know. Is it not safe? I don't know. It doesn't appear to. But the issue remains that nobody's fracking in Maryland. That's the issue to me.
Senator Zirkin brought forth a bill that really looked at the legal aspect. He is a lawyer by profession, and he's very, very passionately anti-fracking. So I know that he wanted to take on a bill that really came from his perspective and his experience. So he brought forth a fracking liability bill, which is really the first of its kind in the nation.
And so the idea is somebody gets hurt, I mean, it specifically says that these chemicals and the amounts that they're putting into the ground are not trade secrets, they're disclosable, they're discoverable and admissible in evidence. So, I mean, it's a number of things that deal with the legal processes.
There are 24 or more states, about half the states and unions, have drilling, allow drilling. No other state has a statute like this. Generally, the courts have decided this. They decide these decisions. You have Attorney General's letter, I think, sitting in the packet, which I think one of the delegates alluded to. It has the 6 factors that a court would look at to decide whether something should have the strict liability standard applied to it on that.
Aaron Cox of the Baltimore Sun reported that
Attorney General Brian E. Frosch entered the fight over hydraulic fracturing in Maryland on Wednesday, urging state lawmakers to pass a bill with liability standards so tough that critics and some supporters consider it a de facto fracking ban. Frosch said, "I'm not sure it's a de facto ban, but it poses to drillers, if it's really safe, go ahead and do it."
And the last handout I would point to is that there was also a risk analysis done by this commission. You have that before you, and most of the areas that on that show that it's relatively low risk.
So there's multiple contamination risks.
It's not an ultra hazardous or abnormally dangerous activity.
When in actuality, it is an extremely hazardous, ultra hazardous, abnormal activity.
I never want to question the motives because I know people mean well. But we can study this forever for political reasons.
You struck some language very beginning in this subtitle. The words have the following meanings: hydraulic fracturing means, and you struck out a drilling technique and instead substituted an ultra hazardous and abnormally dangerous activity.
Right.
So I'm just, I'm not a well driller, but Wikipedia would not define hydraulic fracturing that way.
Yeah, I had a list, I don't think I have it with me, that I read on the floor of the Senate having to do with different activities from different states that are considered, quote, ultra hazardous and abnormally dangerous activities. One of them in our state is, in fact, oil and gas drilling, only though in the state's land or waters.
Garrett County has 6 state parks that cover 84,000 acres, where, according to Senator Zirkin, oil and gas drilling are considered ultra-hazardous and abnormally dangerous in Maryland's state lands.